Hey, greetings everybody. Keith here, hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Got me a new mic, so please let me know if my mic is working or not down in chat. Anybody's there. And my apologies for not having the StreamYard link down there yet, but it should be there now. Okay. Well, let's do this. And then we'll get started on tonight's research. Okay. Awesome, guys. Thanks. Producer down there trying to be slick. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about Authors Guild. And the reason I'm doing this one tonight is because evidently people don't understand what Authors Guilds are and how they work and stuff. So they had this issue with 18 different profiles. Trying to say that I'm a troll of some sort. But evidently, a lot of people don't understand how publication works. So we're going to talk about Authors Guild tonight, what it means, and a particular case from Authors versus Google. Authors Guild versus Google. 2015. We're going to take a look at a short intro to a case as it relates to what we're doing here on the internet and our creator content and what the claim is on it. Because don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Somebody's saying that they can't hear me now. Yeah, quit playing games, guys. Come on. Anyway, links down there. Come on up on panel. And we'll talk. And what we're dealing with here is two simple words, folks. Two very simple words. Well, we already know what author means. It's the root of authority. So let's take a look at guild. Get it pulled up here. And guild, etymology of guild by Entom Online. Guild, G-U-I-L-D as a noun. Says also G-I-L-D, early 13th century, Y-I-L-D-E. Spelling later influenced by Old Norse gildi, guild, brotherhood. A semantic fusion of Old English Geigeld, guild, brotherhood, and guild, service, offering, payment, tribute, compensation, payment, contribution, money, payment, sacrifice, reward, payment, tribute, see, yield. See, when we talk about our commodities and everything, we ask about what the yield was. What did it pay? So when you realize that the etymology is one of the things that's going to help you clear out the bullshit in the language, it helps you discern the different words that are best to use so you can best clarify what you mean. So when you use a word like guild, where it is defined by payment, tribute, service, You're talking about an author's guild, author payment, payment authored, authorized payment. That's all we're doing. That's what truth is. Truth is what pays. Greetings, Nubs.
Just here for my payment.
The connecting senses of a contribution or payment to join a protective trade or society. A protective, to join a protective or trade society. Does that make sense that somebody would want to have or be part of a protective society? Well, of course. So what do you think an author's guild is? It's a protective society. So my 18 characters protect each other within that little society. And it only takes one. The one. If you're not familiar with the Matrix, it's Neo. Neo, you're the one. The only one that can put out your word is you. Learn how to put it out in a protective way. So let's take a look at United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, August term 2014. And it says the Authors Guild, Betty Miles, Jim Bouton, Joseph Goulden, individually and on behalf of all others similarly situated. It's an important term in these kinds of cases, individually and on behalf of all others similarly situated. Similar but not the same. It says plaintiff appellants who are authors of published books under copyright appeal from the judgment of the United States Court for the Southern District of New York in favor of defendant Google, Inc. Plaintiffs sued Google, alleging that its library project and Google Books project infringe plaintiffs' copyrights. Through these projects, Google makes and retains digital copies of books submitted to it by major libraries, allows the libraries that submitted a book to download and retain a digital copy. Your customer service agreement on YouTube and StreamYard and all these other social platforms allow the same thing. They allow the site to create a digital download of all of the information you created. This is why
isn't that digital plagiarism then?
Absolutely. That's what we're talking about. When we talk about this content creation on the internet, these are publication sites, and they're using it as a protection for themselves so they can turn around and deny us our content that we create.
Right.
And when you realize that, you can put yourself in that position of the author and let them know they are not the author, they are the publisher.
Right.
That's it. They don't have a contract to publish. Facebook doesn't have a contract as a publisher. That's not their ISO code. Their ISO code is a social platform. As that, they don't have any right but to publish. But what they're doing is just like the signature thing. If you give them authorization, see where we're going? You gave them authorization. What is authorization? You gave them authority.
Right.
And if you didn't come as an author's guild, they will take that position. That's all it is. It's a presumption of the facts. And until you learn how to use the words, you're not going to learn how the facts work against you by those very terms. So I suggest you don't authorize anybody to do anything in your name unless you know what you're doing and can make the proper claim to the material as a principal. So it says, and allows the public to search the text of the digitally copied books and see displays of snippets of text. So what they're doing is they're not allowing people to just research and get the whole text. But if you go into a certain place and you enter in a snippet of text, it will pull up a portion of it. Then you can copy that portion. Well, then you can turn around and enter in another verbiage up here. See, what you do is you go up in your corner and you do the find thing. Oh, it's not showing you here. Okay, in your search engine or on your open page, if you go up to the top right hand corner, you're going to see a dash, and you're going to see a box with a image, a duplication image, and then your X, so you can close the window out. And then right below that, you're going to have three little dots. When you hit on those three little dots, you can go down to find and edit, and then go over to find, and then put in a search word for the page that you're on. This is what we're talking about. They can search little snippets of books through this tool on Google. And when they do that, they can copy a snippet of that book. Well, then they can enter another search word up in that right-hand corner and get another snippet. And eventually they could get the whole text. And that's what they're claiming. They're claiming that's the violation. The district court granted summary judgment based on its conclusion that Google's copying is fair use under 17 U.S.C. 107 and is therefore not infringing. The Court of Appeals concludes that the defendant's copying is transformative within the meaning of Campbell versus Acuff Rose Music, Inc. That's a 1994 case, 30 years ago almost. Does not offer the public 20 years ago. No, that's 30 years ago.
Hey,
Does
you
not
better simmer down on that. That's making me feel really old, and I'm getting in my feelers, Wizard.
Yeah. Does not offer the public a meaningful substitute for matter protected by the plaintiff's copyrights and satisfies 107's test for fair use. So they affirmed that Google had the right to do it. And now it comes to the appeal. It says, this copyright dispute tests the boundaries of fair use. Plaintiffs who are authors of published books under copyright sued Google Inc. for copyright infringement in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. They appeal from the grant of summary judgment in Google's favor. Through its library project and its Google Book project, acting without permission of rights holders, Google has made digital copies of tens of millions of books, including plaintiffs that were submitted to it for that purpose by major libraries. So the authors didn't approve it, the libraries did. Okay? That's who the contract is with Google and the libraries.
That would be like me going out. That would be like me going out and saying, yeah, you can use whatever books are in my catalog for your own purposes. That's ridiculous. The library has absolutely no authority whatsoever in that position. They are merely the collection. Your baseball cards aren't going to trade themselves.
Well, the problem is that it's a public library. And they assume that public libraries operate different, but they don't when it comes to the copyright. You still have to have that permission. Just because you got it from a library that uses it for free education and doesn't rent the books out doesn't mean you get to go get all the copies of the books from the library now and publish them. And that's exactly what they're doing. See, when it comes to publishing, that's the problem. They were already published, And though Google may be a publisher of information, they can't go getting information and publishing it third hand for advertisement purposes. Particularly if it's on a platform like it's going to explain here, that people can come in and distinctly copy portions and put it together, and then, like you said, use it for their own purposes in sales.
You know, that's interesting that they use the word platform, because a platform and a deck are very different. One is attached to the house and one is not, and freestanding.
Right.
Which is really, really interesting, the verbiage they use. Like, if you really sit down and think about it, you can see the deceptive nature, because most people don't know what a platform is in that realm, I guess would be a good word for it.
Yep. So this copyright dispute.
Wait a second, Wizard. Do you know what the difference between a platform and a deck is? A deck is attached by a ledger board.
Right.
That's fucking crazy. That's fucked up.
That big face board. What is it? A 2x10?
Right. That's attached to the house and making it one structure, as opposed to an independent structure that has no support from the house itself. That's fucked up. And the ledger, what is the ledger but the recording of, right?
Well, it's the allongement, it's the attachment, it's the enumeration. That's the attachment. Google has made digital copies. Yep, Google has made digital copies of tens of millions of books, including plaintiffs, that were submitted to it for that purpose by major libraries. Google has scanned the digital copies and established a publicly available search function. An internet user can use this function to search without charge to determine whether, one, the book contains, whether the book contains a specified word or term, and also see snippets of text containing the searched for terms. In addition, Google has allowed the participating libraries to download and retain digital copies of the books they submit under agreements which commit the libraries not to use their digital copies in violation of copyright laws. These activities of Google are alleged to constitute infringement on plaintiffs' copyrights. The plaintiffs sought injunctive and declaratory relief as well as damages. Google defended on the ground that its actions constitute fair use, which under 17 U.S.C. 107 is not an infringement. The district court agreed. Authors Guild Inc. versus Google Inc. Plaintiffs brought this appeal. Plaintiffs contend the district court's ruling was flawed in several aspects. They argue Google's digital copying of entire books, allowing users through the snippet function to read portions, is not a transformative use within the meaning of Campbell versus Acuff. Okay? They're arguing it is not transformative because they didn't change it. It's like when you go on these streams and you want to do a movie review. You're supposed to change the content somehow, not just run the movie. So what you do in a movie review is you stop it every so often and do a little commentary. Right, Nubs?
Absolutely. Just like when you replace a fence, you tear down the old fence and you replace it with something identical but not the same to the original.
Right.
But there are subtle changes because the wood is not the same.
Well, it's making sure that what you got is still intact, still leads back to the source, and you have your own little flair on it. So it's more like taking that fence that somebody else built and painting it they still get acknowledgement for the fence, and
Yep.
now it's got a little particular flair to it. That's all. So
I just see the interconnectedness of things being the words and the usages of them. It's kind of fucked up as life goes by, and you see those ledger boards, and you know what that word ledger is. You get what I'm saying? I'm
well,
sure
yeah,
you do.
that's the same thing with the graveyards. You know, I think about the headstones and the ledger. Nobody realizes that either. That headstone sits on a ledge stone. The
Yep.
headstone sits on a ledge stone. The ledge stone is a ledger. Look it up.
Yep.
That's what they call them, ledgers. Okay,
You know
and provide.
that's a dying business that everybody's going to end up going to, right?
Eventually, that's the way modern time sets it.
Well, think about it. You are literally in the dead business, whatever aspect, whether you're the graveyard owner or whatever. People are always going to be coming to use your facility. Period. There is no question. It's like 100 percentile. You're gonna get them.
Well, yeah, they sign up at birth.
Yeah. Yep.
So it says it goes on to
100%. You're
say
gonna get it.
and provides a substitute for plaintiff's works. Notwithstanding that Google provides public access to the search and snippet function without charge and without advertising, its ultimate commercial profit motivation and its derivation of revenue from its dominance of the worldwide internet search market, to which the book's project contributes, preclude a finding of fair use. So they are, like I said earlier, they're using it for commercial purposes through advertisement. They're just not charging for the search function. They're using the material of authors to draw in the people that will then use the search function that will then drive the commercial advertisements from from the AI reading the search functions. It's kind of like a statistical element. It's going to keep track of everybody that comes in and hits that search function, and it's going to grab their IP address. It's going to go in there. It's going to find out what kind of statistical elements it's going to find out if you're a man, a woman, adult, a child, all of that stuff, as much as possible by the given parameters of the device that you're using, that they're connecting to the search content. So even if Google's copying and revelations of text do not infringe plaintiffs' books, they infringe plaintiffs' derivative rights in search functions, depriving plaintiffs of revenue or other benefits they would gain from licensed search markets. So they're saying that the search function that allows somebody to come in and search a snippet, put it down, and then search another snippet, and then eventually end up with their whole content, is allowing a place for people to come in and grab content for free that would generally be sold. Google's storage of digital copies exposes plaintiffs to the risk that hackers will make their books freely or cheaply available on the internet, destroying the value of their copyrights. And Google's distribution of digital copies to participant libraries is not a transformative use. They're just changing the material from one location to another. That is not transformation of the material, okay? And just because you cut it down through a search engine and only allow snippets to be taken here and there is still not transformative, because they can get the entire form in the form it was intended. And it subjects plaintiffs to the risk of loss of copyright revenues through access allowed by libraries. We reject these arguments and conclude that the district court correctly sustained Google's fair use defense. So what's your opinion on that?
Sounds like a bunch of people that need to get paid for their work.
Well, what about a public library? Can't somebody go get a book, that very same book, from the public library and read it from there?
Yes, but there's not advertisements that are directed for you specifically or to diminish.
So
And not only that, but your book was purchased at some point if it's in a public library.
right, but still at a public library, you still get to read it for free. It's the same concept of coming to my house, and I've got a book here I bought and paid for, but you don't have to pay for it. I can let you have it and read it. You can bring it back, or you can even keep it. You still get to read the book for free. Okay, so the problem is that if you really want to placate in this world of commerce, really isn't too many ways you can protect yourself, and the real source of revenue that one can have in something like that is the direct sales. So you have to be very careful who the direct sales are to, and if you don't want it out there in the public like that, you don't sell it to libraries. That's one of the things that you do as an author, is if you're going to write a writing for revenue, you make sure you protect it. That's what authors guilds do. Again, it's a protective society, not a commercial society. It's a protective society. And that's what we're talking about. And thanks, Hoppins. I appreciate that. I thought it was a pretty good stream too. Glad you were able to come over. And so what we're talking about here, Nubs, is coining one's words or pursing their lips. Again, one more time, it's not anybody else's responsibility to protect you. You have to learn how to be a big boy and big girl and learn what you're actually doing in life and quit just throwing things out there as if though you know and you don't. It all takes interpretation, and I may be wrong on the interpretation as far as Google is concerned and the court case there, but my thinking is that that's exactly how it's supposed to work. If you know that the library offers that all of them books for free, why would you sell your material to a library? You'd want to put it in the hands of somebody that's going to cherish it and treasure it and make sure to help protect it. This is the biggest problem with our society today when it comes to the national treasures. I don't know who people think the national treasures really are, but it's the people. So when all these government officials are sitting there trying to pose that their law is the law, I'm telling you, all they did was authorize other people to use words, and they're using those words against you. You like that, don't you, Samantha? Anyway, go ahead.
Not only did they use the words against you, but they use it to your extreme detriment without equal consideration.
Well, that's only because you don't give it the equal consideration yourself by knowing the actual value of the word. That's why I do the etymology. And when we're talking about that, Hitler's Willing Executioners is a good publication if anybody wants to read it, because that's what we're talking about is the deep-seated cognitive dissonance of the language that's being used against us and people just doing their job. If you really knew what was being perpetrated against the people, you probably wouldn't be employed.
I sure wouldn't apply for things.
Well, yeah.
To beg.
Every last one of them jobs you have requires an ID, and that ID is a publication that belongs to the state. And so it placates that you're going to involve yourself in that authors guild of publishing data elements for the state. And you shouldn't be doing that. If you're going to be authorizing anything, it should be your own writing. Pure and simple. So let's go. Let's read a little bit more here. It says, Google's making of a digital copy to provide a search function is a transformative use which augments public knowledge. Again, it can't if it's which augments public knowledge. It can't augment public knowledge just because it's a digital copy. If it augments public knowledge, it augments public knowledge because of what the author put in it, not because Google took it and put it in a public library or got it from a public library and made it a digital copy of it. So the only transformation was from a library to a digital form, but that digital form is only because it puts it to electronic devices so that other people can pull it up and print it off. So it's just a saving foundation of the information is all it is, and that's all it should be. But Google uses it or allows it to be, or it allows a search function to go in and grab information from it that shouldn't be public. You can't just go to a library and sit there and rewrite the book while you're sitting there reading it. I mean, you could. It might take you a few days, or you might even take it home and rewrite it when you're at home. But what are you going to do? Try to resell it? You can't. And that's the problem with this Google stuff, is it allows other people to copy that dictation where otherwise it would be kind of infeasible. So it goes on and says, by making available information about plaintiffs' books without providing the public with a substantial substitute for matter protected by the plaintiff's copyright interests in the original works or derivatives of them. And that's the issue again. The derivative is from a library that bought the book. They made an agreement with Google to go ahead and transfer those books to Google for digital copying. Now, granted, that digital copying should have been recognized. If you're going to be contracting with Google to do that, then it would be smeared all around the world. And that's one of those things that the library should maybe be concerned about in distributing copyrighted materials, making sure that it's not going to be used in a malfeasant way. The same is true, at least under
Don't they have a responsibility to do that? Like, I know if you keep a book from a library, they end up charging you for the book, and like they should have a responsibility to make sure that it's not, at least to a certain degree.
Well, yeah,
they can't control your every move.
Yeah, it's the same concept of having liquor in the house. You're not supposed to allow the kids to have liquor, right? Well, they're talking about a governmental house where they're not supposed to be allowing certain people to do certain things, yet it happens because nobody really knows what the fuck the law says because they don't know how to read to begin with. It's amazing how librarians don't know how to read, right? So, the plaintiff's contention that Google has usurped their opportunity to access paid and unpaid licensing markets for substantially the same functions that Google provides fails, in part because the licensing markets, in fact, involve very different functions than those that Google provides, and in part because an author's derivative rights do not include an exclusive right to supply information about their works. In other words, they have the right to provide the book to the library, but the library is not supposed to be then turn around and disseminating the use other than for what they already are allowed. And that extra contract with Google, another private enterprise that uses its information for advertisement purposes and collection of data elements for other sales purposes is not supposed to be doing that. So it's
So is
not
the public
technically just on Google; it's on the libraries that are doing that. They're not set up to be giving information out so that it can violate a copyright. That's one of the paramount things about libraries. They're in the hands of multiple publications by many authors that are copyright protected, and that's the ultimate protection, folks. That library is supposed to be checking with the author first before disseminating that information. Go ahead, Nubbs.
Wouldn't if Google is interacting with the public library, how is that not mixing public and private? Like, you're not. That's a big no. I mean, we had this fucking conversation earlier. You just don't do it. Like, how does that even work?
Well,
I know it does work because it's happening.
Well, that's the thing that people don't understand. They think they go out in public and all of a sudden everything's public. No, you're still in your private capacity, and you can be within the public purview. But and just because you're doing something that might look similar to what somebody else is doing doesn't mean you're both doing the same thing in the same capacity.
Right.
One might be traveling down the road, and the guy behind him might look like he's traveling down the road too, but actually one is not licensed, the other is licensed. It's about
just
that
like
copyright for licensing.
It's just like what we were talking about earlier with the patron versus customer. The USPS has a different responsibility to a patron than they do have to a customer,
Right?
And it's in their verbiage.
Right, and their verbiage is the words customer. You're the one that's going to customize it. You are not the consumer. You're going to customize things. So,
whereas a patron is somebody that utilizes the services rendered.
Yep. Google's profit motivation does not, in these circumstances, justify denial of fair use. Google's profit motivation does not, in these circumstances, justify denial of fair use. I don't see how it doesn't. If they're using a profit motivation of their own, and it's causing the loss of a copyright material because of the use of that copyright material to the copyright holder, then that is, in fact, a violation of copyright law. As a protection of revenues and derivatives of the original, this is why Samuel Clemens went to Congress and established the Generation Skipping Trust. His works were being violated because of publication availability in Canada. They got it to the market first before America. So the people in Canada, the publishers in Canada, were advertising to people in America to buy the books from Canadian sources because they weren't on the American shelf yet. That violated the contract that he had with American publishers to publish it in America, because now people were able to get the book in America before it was published in America, because it was published in Canada first. Just because you get the book first doesn't mean you can take advantage of sales in another market. The copyright protects the marketing licenses.
Let it up to those Canadians to fuck it up. Thanks a lot, OTW.
Canucks. Google's program does not, at this time and on the record before us, expose plaintiffs to an unreasonable risk of loss of copyright value through incursions of hackers. And this is not, I don't know why they would go to the incursion of hackers, because it doesn't take a hacker to do it with a snippet search tool. All you got to do is snippet, 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 snippet until you get the whole thing, and you got it. And you've got it in digital form that you can turn around and send to your copier or printer and print it right up. And that's the violation. That's what I would have posed. Finally, Google's provision of digital copies to participating libraries, authorizing them to make non-infringing uses, is non-infringing. So we've got one company that goes to a library, says, "Hey, we want a digital copy of all your books." The the librarian doesn't know how to read. The guy that presents the contract from Google to get the information doesn't know how to read. And so they go ahead and they say themselves that it's not infringing because they're going to use it for this purpose. But it doesn't matter what purpose you use it if it allows for the digital copies to be used as a depletion of revenue from the original copyright. It doesn't matter what your profit motivation is. What it is the effect. Even though the intent isn't there, that just means it wasn't a crime. It means that the intent wasn't there. And you can place that as your intent is to create a digital library, but know in the background that your profit motivation is so that you can gather up information from the people that are looking for that information through your search function.
And how I just don't get how this isn't blatant plagiarism, because if they are literally taking clippets from a book and you can go through and pull all of the clippets and have the entire book, there is no change to the digital copy, hence making it a copy as opposed to a original. Like
Right.
the courts have to be filled with retards.
Well, yeah, it's people that are just slightly smarter than other people, and they're not really smart at all. It's just that they happen to be smarter than the last one. A lot of these people have no fucking conscience. They have no fucking thing in their mind other than, I need to make a paycheck so I can support my family. Nothing else matters. And
Hitler's
that's
willing
a sad state.
executioners.
Yep, and that's a sad state of a modern, right? A sad state of a modern people that know that their own dissonance, the way they're going today, is just a repetition of what's happened many times throughout history, and yet they're still willing to sit back and let it happen, professing that they care about their next generation, knowing what they're doing to their next generation. It's pathetic, really pathetic. Right. So anyway, it goes on to say that Google's provision of digital copies to participating libraries, authorizing them to make non-infringing uses, is non-infringing, and the mere speculative possibility that the libraries might allow use of their copies in an infringement manner does not make Google a contributory infringer. Plaintiffs have failed to show a material use of fact in dispute. And that's why I say I wouldn't have gone upon the digital copying and the snippets. I'd have gone on the fact that it's definitely cutting into the copyright revenue, because it's allowing not just hackers, but anybody similarly situated, such as myself, that can go up and use the search function to copy a snippet of somebody's writing from here and there and here and there, and then collate it together and actually print the whole damn thing off for free. So, it says we affirm the judgment. Background: the author plaintiffs are Jim Bouton, author of Ball 4, Betty Miles, the author of The Trouble with 13, and Joseph Goulden, author of The Super Lawyers, the small and powerful world of the great Washington law firms. Each of them has a legal or beneficial ownership in the copyright of his or her book. Their books have been scanned without their permission by Google, which made them available to internet users for search and snippet view on Google's website. And that is the whole gravamen of a complaint, if I was to put it in there, is that merely by them copying it when they didn't have permission and then putting it somewhere where everybody has permission openly is the violation. Google's library project, which began in 2004, involves bilateral agreements between Google and a number of the world's major research libraries. And again, that points directly to the gravamen, and that is that it's a bilateral agreement, and they didn't come to the publishers for that validation of being able to make that agreement. Again,
so they didn't follow due diligence. They didn't ask everybody that needed to be asked.
right. They didn't think about the possibility that one of the publishers might come and sue them for the very fact, and they still haven't. They still haven't sued them for the right fact, obviously. Um, but they didn't think about it, and just contacting the authors would have then placed that liability on the authors. Again, it's your responsibility to protect. So when something like this happens, you know how to. And again, if you're going to come at it with some stupid, lame excuse, I don't care if you're a lawyer or not, you came at it wrong. Why would you come at it with the precept that some hacker could do it? Because you're limiting your losses by a hacker being able to do it. But if you show your gravamen that anybody can get the search engine or go to that search function and copy it, then you've got a better case, because now anybody can do it. And it was Google and the library specifically, without your permission, that made an agreement to do so. And you can prove that many people are so similarly situated. Go ahead.
Who owns Google?
ABC Inc.
Is that ABC?
Yeah, ABC Inc. Alphabet Company Inc. They go by both.
That's kind of ridiculous. I'm just thinking about the whole, like, if you want to hide your ownership, you buy it as a private, you buy it in the private. And I just know that, like, the whole concept of DARPA creating the internet, why wouldn't they control it with ABC Inc. owning Google? You get what I like? So it's a.
You got to understand too the way things work. Again, like I said, these people are acting as publishers, and they're not. Google is not a publisher, but they're acting like a publisher. Okay, but Google itself is the one that owns the World Wide Web, while Alphabet Inc. owns Google. So Alphabet Inc. doesn't own the World Wide Web. It doesn't own the cloud. Let's put it that way: the cloud. Google is the one that owns the cloud. YouTube doesn't own Google or the Alphabet Inc. and doesn't own shit, but poses to be a publishing platform. They're not a publishing platform as publishers. They are a platform that allows content creators to publish their content, and they are a data collector. Does that make sense?
Right. I get what you're saying. Company A owns Company B, and Company A owns no assets of Company B. They own all of Company B.
Well, and not only that, but YouTube poses that they're a platform for content creators, and they're going to publish your stuff. That means you're the author, but really, they're not publishers either. You're the one publishing the material. They're just a library that allows people to read material, basically. See, they're not really publishers. They're just a platform where people can put their publications.
Right, it's the YouTube library. That's why they call it a YouTube library. Playlist. It's a list of playing.
So anyway, folks, I hope you get the concept that as an author, you're the one that gets to authorize the payment. That's what author guild means. Guild means payment, contribution. You are paying authority. You are the paying authority. And like I said many times, you pay with your words. Coin your words or purse your lips. You got anything on the way out, brother?
No.
All right.
I always find something entertaining here, and when I say entertaining, I'm not talking ha-ha, funny, funny. I'm talking legitimate, like it's knowledge. So I appreciate you, sir.
Anytime, anytime. It's not me. All glory goes to God.
And that makes me appreciate it even more.
And I thank God I can read. So,
not only read, but also understand that there's something inside that definition, and you understand the meat of the thing. When I looked up that word definition and realized that it was the outline of something and has nothing to do with the contents, I was like, that's it.
And it comes from Phoenician. Definition.
Deaf Phoenicians.
So anyway,
they can't hear well.
I do want to thank everybody for your support then. And please hit the like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. There are PayPal links down below for anybody who wants to share some love. And so again, one last time, I love you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back or not. So may God bless you. Have a good night. And we'll see you again next time.